Hi Jack, how you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you.
Yeah, not so bad. Yeah, um, Jack. It's been a while since I've asked this, but how's things on the COVID front? And after the news from St Johnstone that two of their players have tested positive, how are all your lads?
Yeah, well, fine. We tested at the beginning of this week, so um, we was done negative test players and staff, so it's allowed us to prepare as normal over the course of this week.
And how are you team wise ahead of the?
Alex Gogic obviously suspended for us. Chris Cadden unfortunately is ruled out for the season. Jamie Murphy returns to the squad. He's been back training fully this week, and everybody else. Kevin Nisbet returned to the squad again. Missed out obviously last weekend with a slight ankle injury, but he'll return to the squad as well.
It's an unusual situation, Jack, because obviously I've had two disappointments at Hampden in the last 6 months, but yet with Rangers and Celtic both out of it, I think you guys are just favourites to actually lift the trophy. So how do you view it when you take all that into consideration?
Well, I think to take the second part to begin with, whether you're labelled favourites or outsiders, I think doesn't really matter an awful lot when you get to this stage of the tournament. I think when all the teams that are left in it realise they're only 2 wins away from achieving major success, I think that goes out the window. So for us, it's not something that we've either spoken about or paid much attention to. And then, again, to a degree, the previous experiences don't count for anything because it's a game in its own merits on Saturday. However, we've pointed out we've had the soreness of losing 2 semi-finals close together, or relatively close together. And the one thing that it does do is give you that acute reminder of what that feels like, and it is painful. And you have 2 choices in that regard: not want to go back there to avoid that feeling, or get back there to make sure you come out on the right side of that feeling. And you've got a group that's fully determined, I think, to have that positive feeling in the aftermath of Saturday's game.
Do you talk about the failures those two games, or do you try not to talk about too much in the build up to a game like this?
No, well, you can never affect anything that's already gone. The only thing we can affect is each game that lies ahead for us, and we can affect the semi-final on Saturday. We can affect it in terms of the type of performance we produce, and we can affect it in terms of the end result that we get from it. So that's been our sole focus. Anything that's gone in the past, we can't do anything about now. The only thing we can control is what lies ahead, and we've got the opportunity to do that at the weekend.
In a strange roundabout way, is there more pressure on the 4 teams that are left in it without Rangers or Celtic in there?
No, I think it's highly disrespectful to assume that any of the teams that are left in it think that it changes the dynamics of it. We, like I'm sure the other managers would tell you, I believe that we could win a cup this season. I think when you're a Premiership team, I think you should believe that's a realistic ambition for you, irrespective of the teams that you come up against. I think that's been proven in the cup competitions. The fact that neither of the Old Firm have been through to the last 4 in any of the major cup competitions. So rather than that being something that they've not done well, I think it should be more focused on the fact that there's good teams in Scotland, competitive teams who are good enough on their day to win against any given opposition. So I don't think, certainly I can only speak for myself, but it certainly doesn't change the dynamics of us believing we can win the tournament or the opportunity it presents. We would feel as if we had the same opportunity if both Rangers and Celtic were at this latter stage as well.
Just finally for me, Jack, you made a new signing this week. What will he bring to your squad?
I'm not going to say too much about it, Keith, because it's not all been confirmed yet. Subject to obviously completion of his final medical. So I think when that point comes around, then I'm happy to speak about it in full then. But I think, like always, I would prefer it to all be completed, and then I would speak properly about it. But naturally, if things does go through, it's another really promising young Scottish player that we've managed to attract to the club.
Thanks, Jack. Good luck.
Thanks, Keith. Thank you.
Jack, will you be doing anything differently, or have you done anything differently this week as a manager compared to the previous semi-finals?
No, I mean, I think it's a fair question, because I think you'll always reflect on what you do, and if there's anything you can do differently or better. But the truth is, we're fairly structured on how we work, and in the main this season, it's proven to be the right way to work in terms of the relative consistency of results and where we've found ourselves in cup competitions and in the league. There's little bits and pieces that we've discussed with the players that if we wanted to do things slightly differently, we would have done. But I don't think the players have apportioned any I don't think the players have approached the defeats to anything other than the first one, very fine margins on the day, and the second one, one of our poorest 45 minutes of the season. So I think that they're honest and enough to look at that pragmatically rather than trying to look at it to do with superstition or anything that within the routine that wasn't right. So been aware of it, discussed it, but felt as if the way we've worked all season has given us relative success. So it's what we'll try and do in the build-up, or we have done, in the build-up to this game on Saturday.
And personally for you, in terms of your management experience, how much have you learnt from that, the hurt and the disappointment, and how you can prepare for a semi-final?
I think all it does is, as I said earlier, you don't want the feeling, so you want the opposite feeling. I've had both sides of the feeling as management. I've come out in these big games and had enjoyed success and a good feeling, then I've had the soreness off it as well. And I've been beyond semi-finals, then had the soreness in finals, and it does hurt and it is painful. But as I mentioned earlier, that all it does is either make you not want to be there or strengthen your resolve to make sure you have that success, and that's all it's done for me. It's certainly not diminished my desire to try and bring major silverware to the club, and hopefully that's been evident with how we've progressed through the Scottish Cup this season to get to another semi-final.
The Dundee United performance against Aberdeen in the last round earned a fair bit of praise. Is that the kind of United you'll have to prepare for this weekend? Well,
I'm sure it's the Dundee United that Mickey will want us to face, because they were hugely impressive on that afternoon. They have enjoyed a terrific season. Again, it's maybe went under the radar a little bit in comparison to some of the other stories in Scotland this season, but I think to come back into the Premiership and be as comfortable as they've been for large parts of the season, threaten to be in the top six, and then obviously progress through the last four of major tournament, is testament to the job that Mickey has done at the club. Then have good calibre of players as well. League games have been tight, albeit they've all, with the exception of the draw, have all been in our favour. So always respect for the opposition, believe it will be a difficult game, as all semi-finals are. But as a group, I think I've had the sense around training this week, the players are ready, they're ready to go.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sheila.
In what frame of mind do you go into this one? What's your predominant emotion, I guess, going into this big semi?
Excitement and looking forward to it. I think you work as a player or as a manager or a coach for occasions and big games, and we've been fortunate, we've had quite a few of them in a short period of time, and this is another one. So I think for players and staff, it is much better to be in May and be preparing for this type of fixture than have a meaningless league game to look forward to, or no weekend or no fixture or whatever it might be. So for us, nothing other than excitement, anticipation, and as I mentioned earlier, a group of players I think that very much look ready to go at the moment.
Much is made in professional sport of the mental side of the game. How big for you is the psychological side of this one?
It's no different to the psychological side of the game for every single match. The prize to get to a cup final is one that people focus on, but I think for us it's been about creating a culture all season that is about the same mindset for every single game, irrespective of opponent, whether it be a league game or a cup game. And so, again, looking at the consistency of our approach to this week, it's the same for every single game. It doesn't guarantee that you win games. Only the very, very few teams win every single week, but we're fighting hard to create a mindset amongst the players that their approach to every game is one that means that mentally they're prepared and they're ready to go, that they back themselves, they trust in what we do, they trust each other. And as I said, over the course of the season, they've shown that to be right more often than it's not been.
And do you think a run to the final, and in your opinion, for your side, hopefully lifting it, could turn what's a good season already into, I don't know, a great season?
Yeah, I think that's pretty obvious. I think if we've had, I wouldn't say it's a good season, I think we've had a very good season. I think the level of consistency the team has shown, I think the club was just above relegation zone when I took this job a year and a half ago. So the progress the squad of the players has made has been brilliant. We've continually been in semi-finals and consistently been around that last four since I came to the club as well. But to go in to make yourself part of the club's very fabric and history, you win silverware. That's what the players did in 2016. And rightly deserve their place in club folklore. But this group that I'm working with at the moment have that opportunity. It's there for them to do that. And as you said, they will shift from being a group of players that people will remember as having had a good season or performed at a level that this club hasn't done regularly enough to one that goes down in folklore, and it's a very obvious incentive for them as well.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. You ask a Hibs fan what the Scottish Cup means to them, and instantly they'll go 2016, the last second goal. What does it mean to you, the Scottish Cup?
Well, it still retains its romance for me. I grew up dreaming of lifting that cup as a player. For me, a lot of the games that have been replayed, I think via your own channel at the moment, Carradine, are games that I remember fondly. Different teams involved in, different players, iconic images of players lifting that trophy, and the closest I got as a player was the semi-final. So it has retained its magic for me. It's never ever diminished in what I believe to how big a competition it is and how much it means to lift it. And you referenced 2016 there. I know from the players that are still at the club how much that day meant to them, and I think it's brilliant that the competition itself is still viewed in that way in Scotland. I don't think there's many that don't view it that way. So for me, it still holds that. It's something that I've always wanted to do, and I would love to do it as a manager. I said, didn't do it as a player, I'd love to do it as a manager.
Jack, just earlier on this week, Josh Doig nominated for Young Player of the Year. Deserved recognition for him?
Yeah, I mean, everybody is always going to be biased, prejudiced towards their own players. But I would have been astonished if he hadn't been nominated. I believe he should win it. That's very obvious for me to say. But he's the youngest in that quartet. In the case of, I think, Lewis and David, significantly younger. At 18 years old, to have the season he's had, show the maturity he's had, and also show the improvement he's had over the course of a whole season, not just a little bit of a season, I think is outstanding. So delighted for him. That personal recognition, I think, is a good reflection for us as a club, and naturally I hope he goes on to win it. As I said, I think it's thoroughly deserved.
Because it's not just on, obviously he's done well on the park, but he said all the off the park stuff as well to deal with, big links down south and things like that. I mean, have you been just as impressed in that side of it as well in his first season as a full-time, well, not full-time professional Hibs, but first season in the first team week in, week out?
Well, yeah, I mean, something obviously Carradine asked earlier about the mindset and the psychological aspect of the game, or it's been referenced to this conversation. And the truth is, it's a hugely significant part of sport and football. And the one thing that Josh has shown is the ability to handle the on-pitch challenges you've mentioned. But he has a temperament and character that is very well suited to elite sport, and he's handled his really steep upward curve, if you like, brilliantly. If you get the chance to interview him or get the chance to have conversation with him, you would appreciate that right away. There's an innocence about him still, and a youthfulness about him, but circled with a maturity and I think an awareness of what it takes to go and be successful. So that's why I've been so excited by him. I think that he could go on and have a real top career because he's got physical and football attributes that I think everybody can see, but he's got a mindset that at a young age is very well geared up for having a long and successful career.
I'm sure you'll be modest about it, but I think some eyebrows were raised when you weren't nominated in the Manager of the Year category. Do you get bothered by things like that?
No, I mean, I think the candidates that have been nominated are all worthy of it. I think that I suppose, again, the longer you're in the job, you judge yourself on what you do on a daily basis. I would never be flippant about if you were recognised, and I've achieved the Manager of the Year award that meant a lot to me at that time. But I think it's just that focus on doing the job the best I can do every single day. I think when you get to, I was going to say this stage of management, I've still not done it that long, but certainly now for 250 odd games, it's about just trying to do my job as well as I can and get better at it every day. That's the thing for me, is continually to strive to improve and learn and get better. Each passing week and each passing season.
Jack, Christian was talking to us a wee while ago about when he was speaking to Graham Matthew about signing for Hibs. They was showing the kind of YouTube videos of 2016, the post-match, the parade. Is that something you tap into as well when you're at this stage of the Scottish Cup competition as a manager?
Well, I think around, if you come to our training ground, there's a few reminders of that day, and I think everybody that comes to the club is aware of how big a day that was because of the history that had went prior to it. I mean, it's unfortunate that eventually the last year means that there's a very different feel around the semi-finals and hopefully a final from that occasion, because of the absence of supporters and what would lie ahead in the aftermath of it as well. But I think the thing that it does do, and I can understand why Graham at that point would have shown it to Christian, is because it fully highlights the size of this club, and how much it means to so many people, not just Edinburgh, but around the country and beyond. So I think that's something that we use to make sure players fully appreciate, players and staff fully appreciate I suppose how fortunate we are, but equally the responsibility we have as well. And this season, more than any, I think we feel that responsibility more than ever, that we know that by performing on the pitch and bringing success, we bring some, I suppose, enjoyment and relief to people that have been frustrated by not being able to come to games, and perhaps how much it's affected their day-to-day life in general. So it's been a big driver for us. It's our way of trying to reward people for the loyalty they've shown. And I said we've got another opportunity on Saturday to get a step forward to doing that properly.
Jack, I know the League Cup semi-final, there was a few, like Jackson Irvine had just signed. There was a couple of players just back from injury and stuff. I think a couple of bad league results. With the exception of last week, Hibs in really good form just now. Boyle, Nisbet, Doidge all scoring goals. Do you feel the squad's in a much better place in this going into the semi-final?
I mean, I do think that you said we dropped below the standards that we've been at recently last week, but with the exception of that, I do think we've been in a good place. I probably feel as if it had been our best spell of form of the season. The rest of the season we've still done well, but I just feel as if we were in a good flow and we had a lot of our top players playing well at the same time. So you mentioned Jackson and lack of game time probably at that point as well. So another one that has continued to grow as he's had more and more games. So I think overall we feel better equipped going into the game. But it doesn't really count for anything unless you go and perform on the day, and we found that to our cost this season. So it's something that we need to go and produce. As I said, I think the players are something the players are aware of, is that they need to go and bring their best performances at the weekend. And I know I'll keep going back to it, but you do get a sense sometimes as a manager around the group to where they're at, and all week it's been good for me because I feel as if they're in the right place for the game and excited and ready to go for it.
And Alex Gogic suspended, obviously played a big part in terms of winning the ball back. How big a miss will he be this week?
Well, he's been important for us this season. He's, I think he brought a dynamic to the squad that we needed. And he's, again, another player I think that has grown as the season went on. I think he's grown in confidence and belief and stature within the group as well. And he's made significant contribution in games with how he's allowed us to play. So we'll miss him. But the motivation for us, and I've said that to him, is to take him to the final and make sure for him he's had a really good season as well, that we can finish that season the best possible way. So I've good players in that area of the pitch, and it presents an opportunity for one of them to go in at the weekend and show what they can do.
Right. Best of luck tomorrow, Jack.
Thank you.
Get to lose to Dundee United this season, Jack. How much can you take from those past results into this game, or is it a case of it is a one-off performance?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is. I mean, the cup semi-finals are difficult to predict, and there is the emotional aspect of it, and the anxiety that can go around it, and it's a different. Hampden just now is a strange arena to play in. I know all arenas have no fans in them, but that, been there a couple of times already, and it is particularly eerie because of the vastness of the stadium and how far away the pitch is. So the dynamic of playing there is a little bit strange. I think the players have obviously experienced it a couple of times, but I think it makes it very much a one-off game. The games have been tight against United, particularly two games at Tannadice. Ironically, we felt as if our best performance was at home, and they scored late on to deny us winning the game. So as much as we can look towards little bits of those games in terms of how we played and how United played, I think Saturday's very much a one-off game.
You said obviously that Hampden is a little bit empty and there's not as many eyes there, but there will still be plenty of eyes on the likes of Josh Doig and Kevin Nisbet, who have had terrific seasons, and obviously there are heavy transfer links. How can you keep those guys grounded going in with a big stage, big performance going into this?
I think first of all they've probably become accustomed to it over the course of the season. I think they've both and others been subject to interest and speculation, and they've shown their ability to handle it in different ways and respond to the performance level. And it's a little bit like you said about being excited about the game, being involved in a game like this at this stage of the season. for a player, it's much better to be the subject to speculation than nobody caring about you. So I think it's something that if they handle it the right way, they should be excited about. They should take it as a compliment. They should grow in confidence and stature for it. The fact that the performance level has attracted attention and speculation and interest and whatever else that brings, and hopefully that's reflected then in the type of performance they produce to show that the players are high in confidence.
Cheers, Jack. All the best.
Thank you.